Morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm back with yet another video. And in this video, I would be discussing my full-time experience as an engineer at Goldman Sachs. So let's begin. As usual, this video is segregated into the following sections: my experience, requirements preparation and application procedure, and a very quick overview of the interview process. I've mentioned the timestamps for each section in the description. Feel free to jump to relevant section. I'd like to begin this section with a confession that I sat for Goldman Sachs during internship season as well, but I was rejected after the second round of interviews. And not gonna lie, that rejection felt really bad at that time. But I was fortunate enough in the sense that I was able to clear the procedure during full-time placements, and then I started as an engineer at Goldman Sachs. Now, Goldman Sachs as a brand needs no introduction, and everyone knows that they are on the top of almost all of the fields of operation, which includes but is not limited to merchant banking, investment banking, mergers and acquisitions, wealth management, and so on. Now, Goldman Sachs have hired and retained some of the best minds in the tech industry. And I worked in Goldman Sachs during the pandemic, so I wasn't able to interact with a lot of people on one-to-one basis or even visit their office once, which I totally regret. But I can say for sure that I was working with a lot of brilliant engineers because the way the things were being conducted, the projects being done, and all the brainstorming sessions gave a very clear idea of this fact. And I'll also like to add that Goldman Sachs made all the necessary effort to support their employees and families against COVID, and also it gave full assistance in terms of work from home setup, and the transition was quite easy and pretty smooth. Now talking about projects and tech stack, my tech stack was Spring and React.js, and as in other and as you may find in any other company, there was a lot of internal tools and softwares as well, but the main infrastructure was Spring and React.js. Now, again, the tech stack might vary depending on the team you're joining and the role you are being hired for, but for me, it was this. Now, moving on to the requirements part, GS had a very lenient GPA criteria when it came on campus, but my observation was that all the candidates shortlisted for interviews at least had a GPA of 8.0, and that might be a coincidence or decision taken by the hiring team at that time. I'm not sure about that, but I'll definitely recommend that you maintain a GPA of 8.0 plus so that you do not face any roadblocks at that time. Now, speaking of college preferences, for fresh grads and interns, Goldman Sachs does not have college based preferences as such. They're happy to hire you if you're eligible and technologically sound. They visit a large number of colleges as part of their campus hiring drive. With the pandemic, they also organized remote hiring event where anyone could apply, irrespective of the college they're from. And even if your college is not part of their campus drive, they regularly update their careers portal, and I'll put the link in the description. Feel free to apply for any position you feel is relevant. And also reach out for referrals while you're applying. Just reach out to someone on LinkedIn and share the position ID with them and ask for a referral. Now, talking about the resume, try to keep as many good and meaningful projects as you can. Now, it definitely adds to your profile, but it also gives the recruiter an overview of your interests and experience. And then he can further question you on the topics of your interest, which would be really favorable for you in an interview. And by experience, I can tell my interviewer discussed my project for 3 by 4th of the total duration of the interview. And that was really beneficial for me because I knew in and outs of my project, so there was no chance of fallback in that case. And now, talking about the preparation, I'll suggest that you cover an adequate amount of questions in DSA from lead code or interview bit, and they ask questions from trees, strings, arrays, DP, and graph. So I think you should keep your basics of all these topics clear. don't go too deep into it because the question would be testing your basic and foundational knowledge and won't be too tough. They also ask questions from core subjects, so make sure you to go through these subjects and do not leave these subjects. But again, do not dive too deep into these subjects because the questions would be there, but they won't be too difficult. They would be checking your basic knowledge and foundational knowledge, so that you can cover. And for GS, definitely do some puzzles on Geeks for Geeks because Goldman Sachs has uh, two, 3 or 4 rounds of interviews, and I'm sure in at least in one of the rounds you would have to face some puzzle. So make sure you are prepared with these as well. This brings us to the last part of the discussion. I'll talk about my interview experience with Goldman Sachs. The first round was an online test, and the test had core CS concept based questions and aptitude questions. These were MCQ questions. There were also 3 programming problems, which include a matrix problem where we had to use the concept of memoization, and there was a simple tree traversal problem and the famous regex problem, which you had to solve using DP. Now, after clearing the online test round, I had 3 face-to-face interview rounds. First round began with a quick introduction. I was asked 3 programming problems: finding the largest square in a matrix with all ones. So for this question, I gave the brute force approach and as well as the DP approach, and I also had to write the code for the question, and I had to write it on a paper, so there was no laptop-based programming. Then I had to traverse a tree iteratively, and I had to write the code for this question as well on paper. And then I was asked the famous Rabin-Karp algorithm. I had to explain this algorithm, but I was not asked to write the code for this question. This was followed by a few questions from operating systems and machine learning. Now, the reason for asking machine learning question was that I had mentioned 2 projects from machine learning in my resume. So the interview asked some questions from machine learning. Now, after clearing this round, I had my second round. Second round was a complete system design round for me with minimal programming and a lot of discussion. I had to design the system and schemas for Walmart retail stores and inventory management. I designed the DB schemas and APIs, and apart from the designing part and the minimal code writing part, I was also asked backend related questions. So the backend related questions were like, which DB technology are you going to choose, and can you combine these requests into one request, or why do you need to keep these requests as different post requests and not as one post request? So all those questions. And the interviewer also asked me to apply association rule mining in this case scenario. Now, this question was for brownie points, as he mentioned, and also again he asked me to apply association rule mining because I had mentioned data mining quite a lot of times in my resume. So that's the only reason he asked me. And after clearing this round, I had my last round, and the last round seemed to be more like a hiring manager type of a round. I was given a binary search problem, and then I was given a puzzle. The puzzle was the famous Geeks for Geeks puzzle where everyone is standing in a circle and everyone kills the person next to them, and then we have to tell in the last which person remains standing. So I tried a lot and I explained my approach and everything, but I wasn't able to give the complete final answer. But like after all these rounds, they announced the results, and I was fortunate enough that I was able to grab this offer, and that's about it. In case I missed out on some important information in this video, I request you to write down in the comment section, and I will try my best to resolve all your queries. And with this, I'll end this video here. Hope to see you in the next video. Stay safe, keep learning. Thank you.